Yo, what's good? It's Tuesday night. You know what that means. It is Flyers Talk A to D with your boys. You got Dales. We got Pove. No Matt's the Sudi tonight, but we're also going to talk a lot about the Flyers' slow starts recently. We're also going to talk about that game last night. So there's a lot on the table for tonight. So make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, jump in the comments. The conversation's about to get underway. Let's go talk some puck. What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday night. Like I said, your boys Dales, you got Pove, you got Flyers Talk A2D coming at you live on a Tuesday night. Pove, how are you feeling tonight, man?
Well, I got a hemorrhoid the size of a golf ball, but other than that, I'm perfect.
Wow, that was not what I was expecting.
So much pain. That's why if I'm sitting a little taller on your screen, it's because I got a little padding underneath. True story.
Wow, you are a trooper for doing the show tonight, brother.
Yeah,
let me tell you.
Got to go on. The show must go on.
All right. Like I said, no Matt's in studio tonight. Matt's off. He had to work tonight, so we're gonna take over and hopefully we don't, crash and burn like we usually never do. But as always, Flyer Talk A2D brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. Check them out at specializedphysicaltherapy.com. They got 2 locations, one in Cherry Hill, one in Burlington. If you have any, like Matt says, any aches and pains, any muscle issues, joint issues, anything you feel like it's causing you a little bit of quality life issues, hit here, make an appointment, go see our doc, make him yours, Dr. Paul Vidal. That's specializedphysicaltherapy.com. What a game last night. Just to kind of lead into everything here. Lost 3-0 to Tampa Bay Lightning, and we'll get a little bit more in depth into this later. But one of the things that we've been praising this team with, Robbie, early on here is resiliency. Teams tend to fall behind a little bit quicker these days, but they do tend to find a way to climb back into games, which is always a great thing. And moving into the second half of the season, they're going to have to figure out ways to start getting a lead and start playing with a lead. So this leads into our face-off question, or face-off poll. The Flyers' resiliency will eventually come up short and start leading to losing games. Obviously, we did agree or disagree. For me, and then I'll swing it over to you. I think it's a very quick and easy agree. Eventually at some point, you're going to run out of gas. You're going to need a break. You put more effort into games when you're coming from behind instead of playing with the lead. You can play a completely different form of hockey when playing with a lead. So for me, it's a quick and easy agree. And Robbie, obviously, let us know what you think. You agree or disagree with this?
Well, I will say this in terms of the game last night. True story. Another true story. I did fall asleep a couple of times because there was some snoozing effects, especially when there was like 8 to 10 minutes of no whistle hockey, but it wasn't the exciting barn burning hockey. But I mean, if you're a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, maybe there was. But in regard to the Flyers' recent stretch, they've shown great resiliency. And while I think the makeup of this team and the way that Trevor Zegras has been exceeding all expectations would point towards it continuing and based on what they're building in the locker room. If the forwards don't start getting back and helping the defense more, the resiliency is only going to last so long because despite that excellent makeup of this group, Brian, the energy gauge is eventually going to come up empty. Now, luckily, the Olympic break this season will favor teams like the Flyers, young teams that are going to run out of gas, but that's a long ways away, talking February 6th to the 25th. So, but however, like Talk said last night after the game, the boys will learn and improve from games like this. And like I said, excellent makeup. If we see more inspired play as we saw against the Devils on Bernie's night, the Flyers won't have to rest purely on their resiliency. and they're going to put this league on notice that not only can they contend for a playoff spot, but they could be a legit threat. No. So that's a weird way to agree to the poll, but you got to get off the fast starts, Brian, or else that you're just going to see you're going to run out of gas.
No, I absolutely, I 100% agree with you. So it's not like, because you bring up a great point. The way that Tocchet wants his team to play. I mean, defensively, they've been fine. I have no issues with this team defensively. I think they've been really good. I think Vidar's been really good. And I'm gonna exclude last night in this comment. The offense needs to find ways to get the puck in the net a little more consistently. Now, that being said, I heard a little stat last night saying that I think the Flyers were like the third most balanced team as far as scoring goals goes. Like, they have more spread out goals throughout the entire team. I think I think JJ said there's like 5 or 6 players with 5 goals or more.
Right.
So that's awesome. Like, they're getting the balance there. So that's great. But the thing for me is getting the quick early goal. You brought up the game against the Devils, which I think is a really good example. Fall behind 1-0. That to me is not that big of a deal. It's not that big hole of a climb out of. But the way they climbed out of it and just attacked the Devils the rest of the game, we need to see more of that from this offense. They basically put them in a chokehold and just didn't give up. If they can get the lead, I'm sure enough in this defense right now that they're going to figure out ways to win more games this way. But you can only do so much from these slow starts where you can keep climbing out of these holes. And I think last night was a good example of that, because you're going to be facing hot goaltenders. You're going to be facing some of the best goaltenders in the world. You faced the best one in the world yesterday. And I'll get a little bit more into this later on in the show. But, a guy like Vasilevsky, if you let him find his groove, he's not going to let one in.
Right.
So you got to be able to jump on some of these teams early and create a lead to build off of, or at least create some momentum to build off of. Otherwise, you're just going to flounder, and you're going to find ways to lose games instead of what they've been doing. They've been finding different ways to win games week after week, game after game. It's now they're starting. I think they have to start finding ways to get that first or second goal,
right?
And just kind of doing what they did to the Devils,
right? You could do somewhat of what you did against the Devils, but you're not going to get 3 goals in 26 seconds all the time. There's a reason why that's a franchise record for the Philadelphia Flyers. And it was just, I watched that game, and I mean, that might have caused the hemorrhoid. You know what I mean? Because I shit myself when I saw that fucking shit happening, right? But yeah, I mean, you keep on falling behind. It's just a tough task. It's a tough task. So you get off. It's great to have wins like that because it builds character and it builds resiliency and it builds that culture where you're leaning on the guy next to you on the bench when you hit the ice, you're ready to go. And I mean, we're seeing these lines as much as they've been juggled a little bit. We've seen Mitchkov and Brink up with Coots on the top line. We've seen Konechny with Noah Cates and Forrester. The fourth line's been solid. I mean, Abels and Delorier, I think that was probably the most exciting thing about for the Flyers side.
Yeah.
One of the things, we'll get into more of that later, but the fight that he had last night. But ultimately, Brian, what I'm loving from this team is that they're bringing strong forechecking, right? They got to finish plays, but 5-on-5, they've been defensively great, to your earlier point. And on the PK, they've been even better. They were 20th last year. They're 3rd in the league, and it's not it's early, but it's not that early at this point. And they've been showing really good discipline. You talk about a game like last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning where shots were 20-18 in favor of the Flyers. So, even against a fast team like Tampa, you see them maybe they've been criticized for the defense backing in a little bit, but Tocchet addressed that right after, and we'll get into that later, that it's more the forwards not getting back. Maybe they're getting a little too aggressive on that forecheck. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Mr. Mitchkov. So, you got to, it's all learning curves at this point, but there's a lot of good things that we're seeing right now. They're going to learn from their mistakes. They're going to build upon what they're doing well. And that will eventually lead to getting off to faster starts, Brian.
No, I agree, and I don't typically do this. I listened to some of the post game last night, and listening to Jamie talk about just kind of how the lack of response from the team as far as offense goes. He was very how did he phrase it? He phrased it pretty confidently that they were going to climb back out of this and respond in the next game, which was nice. But I also listened to something Sean Couturier said, which kind of hit a little bit of home. He took a lot of accountability for what happened on I think he said it was the first or second goal. Basically saying that, we can't allow that to happen again. Basically captain talk, but just hearing it come out of like certain guys' mouths, it's reassuring to me that this team is starting to kind of click with Tockett's system. So the interesting thing that I also took away was Ashlyn Sullivan saying that this team is kind of still learning the system in their practices instead of you preparing for the game, which kind of has me a little concerned that maybe the system isn't hitting like we thought it was. And some of these really good games that they had were just kind of luck. I don't want to say luck, but maybe that's the term to use. But that's a little alarming. We're about 25 games into the season. Wouldn't you think this team would have a little bit of a better grasp of the offensive system by now instead of continuing to learn the system this far into the season, Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, but I disagree with Ashton Sullivan's take there. I mean, if they're still learning this system, well, they're pulling it off pretty darn well. What did I just say about the penalty kill? I mean, that's a drastic improvement. Sure. Now you can say maybe that points a finger more towards Yogi, you know what I mean, special teams, right? But it's all under the umbrella of Tocchet, right? And we're seeing guys flourish. We are seeing. I alluded to it before, Brian, in terms of Trevor Zegras exceeding expectations here in Philadelphia. I can't take my eyes off this guy, and I swear, it's not just the shot and his shooting ability, but it's the playmaking ability. It's the vision, finding guys. We saw it really early on when he made that awesome pass to Couturier earlier on from behind the net with two Florida Panthers, I believe, crashing up on him. And he's just continued to do that. And even last night against Tampa Bay Lightning, and you're talking about a team that was playing phenomenally well. Zegras, we talk about where we've seen, and maybe the fan base, you want to chime in, you want to comment on this, right? Where we've watched playoff hockey and be like, no way could the Flyers product measure up or compete with this level, right? But we're seeing individual guys start to flourish under Tockett's system, and I'm seeing that develop. And there was times during that Devils game, a strong New Jersey Devils team that not only did they make Jake Allen look silly, they made that whole bench look silly. Skating around. I mean, like just that offensive, just like that hunger, that fire, that speed. Now, like I said, they played a very fast Tampa Bay Lightning team, right? You're gonna learn from that, and we'll talk about that later more in the show. But ultimately, for now, alluding to the slow starts, fam, right? I think they're always going to be competitive in these games, even when they get off to the slow starts. And that's what they've proven there, to that resiliency. Mm-hmm. But you got to fill up that tank. And a good way of filling up that tank is not taking dumb penalties, putting yourself behind the 8 ball where you're killing not only solid time on 5-on-5, but your own power play opportunities, negating them. When you make smart decisions like that, then you can get more of your skilled players on the ice. Mitchkoff will be on the ice more. Zegras will be on the ice more. What's up, Raska?
What's up, Raska?
The more discipline they play, and again, maybe tying it back to your original point, when you're making mistakes, often what happens? You're behind the play. You get that hooking like Cam York got in the Lightning game, right? And maybe in those aspects, they're struggling to learn the system, right? But this is year one, right? What I'm seeing and what I'm liking is that they've lost nothing from the 3 years under Torts. We've seen that with the accountability, right? But just taking it up to the next level.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
There's a lot there to unpack.
Go ahead.
I go on rambles. That's what I do.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So I
for
just
the fan, by
back.
the fan. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. For 10 years, we've been by the fan, for the fan. We're going to be by the fan, for another 10.
Yes. Sir.
So just jumping all the way back to where to the initial question. It does concern me a little bit that if what Ashland said is true, that they're still in practice working on systematic stuff instead of game planning. That does have a little bit of concern for me, obviously, because obviously at this point we want guys to be game planning and creating ways to win, which maybe is why they're still juggling the lines as much as they are, not being able to find obviously outside of the Brink Couturier, not Brink and Couturier.
Brink and Couturier now, though. But
yeah,
I get your point. The Brink, Cates, and Forrester line normally,
Like we know that's probably the best line on this team. And obviously a bunch of new players as well. And I was having a conversation at work. Juleson is slowly growing on me as a team guy, and I love seeing him kind of jump into a lot of the scrums to defend his teammates. So I love that he's a team guy. But for me, it's they got to it's figuring out ways to get those fast starts, and I know it's going to take time. And I'm not expecting them to do that immediately. And kind of building off of what Brian Boucher said the other night, I believe it was actually during the Devils game. He said it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish, and there's a lot of truth to that. But for a team that's trying to make the playoffs this year, a team that's trying to break out of a rebuild, you got to figure out ways to get to wins a little bit in an easier way for yourself. And it's a lot less stressful for the fan base too. So, that's always important. But
truly.
A couple comments here real quick. I saw Prison here. Hopefully he's still awake. Then we got Roscoe chiming in saying that the Blues terminated Lucic's tryout contract, which is true because he just doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah, agreed.
And then he goes
trying to hold on there.
Yeah. And then he goes to say Lucic to the Ducks. No, the Ducks don't need to add anybody right now. They're good the way they are. Winning hockey games is the way that they're doing. Anthony just chimed in. Anthony DeMio. What's up, Ann? Happy Thanksgiving to you, brother, as well. Says, Hey, guys, this team has too many wingers, and a big trade is needed to get a number one center or D-man. Until that is done, we are stuck in neutral. Want them to win, but I'm honest. I think there's a lot of truth in that. I still don't think they have the number one center. They have plenty of talent at the wing to be able to move. You're also going to eventually have to some point consider the Trevor Zegras extension potentially into this as well. So Flyers see him as a winger, and I know he sees himself as a center, but something to think about. What do you think about this, Rob? You think a big trade is needed to get a number one center?
Well, first of all, Anthony, happy Thanksgiving to you too. And they do have more talent on the wing than they do at center. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, you got Zegras playing that hybrid, right, where he's playing center a bit, playing wing a bit, or what have you. Christian Dvorak has played very well. I think he's earned the money for his 1-year contract and is building up that potential trade value where you could, package him and others for a step up on in center ice. But I really feel this is going to come from the guys we drafted, right? We saw Jet Lachenko up on this team. He's now been traded I believe in the OHL to London, was it? Or
Bridgeport.
Maybe Bridgeport.
It's one of the best teams in the OHL. I know that. I can't think of the
Brantford.
city. Brantford. That's it.
Yep. So he's going to be getting much better experience playing with that higher level of competition, right? To the point where, he's going to be in tow for next season. Hopefully you do get Zegras signed or what have you, as well as down the road, Jack Nesbitt, you know what I mean? As well as he performs well, at the junior level. So I think ultimately I have the confidence that it's in the pipeline in terms of that number one center, but that also can. I don't think that's going to come from a trade. I think you're gonna build upon what you're building here, brick by brick. But ultimately, you're gonna develop your number one center, Iceman. I don't think you're going to trade for him.
Yeah, and to kind of build off of what you were saying here, Rob. What's up, Greg? And always appreciate you chiming in, brother. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family as well. If you look at some of these other teams, if they're going to get a number one center, it's going to be one of two ways. It's going to be you're spot on. They're going to have to develop it, or they are going to have to trade for it. But the problem is there's not a lot of teams out there right now in the market that are going to be willing to trade a number one center. Especially these playoff teams, these rebuilding teams, they're trying to find these guys to build around. So that being said, it's going to be really tough to have to find it. I mean, you brought up Jetlachenko. It's a great example. The example I'm going to bring up is Jack Nesbitt. I think Jack Nesbitt, the way that he's been playing with the Spitfires this year, he's been outstanding. Plus his size, his physical ability, I think he has the making to be a future number one center. I think Danny Briere saw something in this kid when he was drafted, which is why he went up to go get him. And I think I'm, I believe in Danny Briere and what he's trying to do. I think he may have found a diamond in the rough with Nesbitt. I definitely think he found a diamond in the rough with Jetlachenko. So I think it's going to be one of those two guys that are going to wind up getting developed into a number one center. But unless the Flyers wow somebody, or they go to a team like I'm going to say, for example, I'm not trying to start any rumors or speculation or anything. Unless they go to like a Buffalo Sabres and try and get Tage Thompson, a team like that, I don't necessarily think that I see the Flyers making a move like that. I mean, Buffalo's right on the cusp of essentially being a playoff team. I don't see that. I think those teams I don't see moving on from a number one center unless it's going to be an older guy and it's a team that's ready to rebuild. I just don't see it happening.
Right. And I don't want to go that direction anyway. You know what I mean? Build this team from within. And that's what they're doing there. That's the MO. But talk about just touching upon Danny B's vision about finding diamonds in the rough. What's up, Greg? He agrees to the poll. Can't keep playing from behind, giggity, and expect to win consistently. Yeah, no, exactly. You got to, I mean, no matter how resilient, no matter, how much they have a proclivity to come back. You only have so many. JJ said that they already exceeded last year's come from behind after being down from the second period. So, I mean, that tells you a lot. But finding a diamond in the rough, where would this team be without Dan Vladar and his 2.42 goals against and 9.12 save percentage, putting up similar numbers to his career ceiling year with the Calgary Flames, as we hoped, as we potentially expected? That's been just an awesome signing. To, like I said, initially to work in tandem with Sam Harrison, but he's taken the lion's share of the starts, Brian.
Yeah, so I was listening to Snow the Goalie. Well, I shouldn't say I was listening to Snow the Goalie, but I was listening to clips when I was in the bathroom and, just scrolling like, any normal person does when that you get that phone call. Scrolling through, and
we love Bundy. We got to have Bundy on the show sooner or later.
It actually wasn't Bundy that brought this up. It was actually Anthony Sanfilippo, and I thought was it Sanfilippo? It might have been Frank Saravelli. It was Frank Saravelli.
That's more likely.
He brought up a great point in saying that Dan Vladar, with his time in Boston and obviously his time in Calgary, he was always wound up being like a tandem guy, a 1A, 1B type, looking for an opportunity to kind of spread his wings and kind of expand his game a little bit. I think coming to the Philadelphia Flyers has been really beneficial for him in that aspect, because it's not only necessarily a situation where he's going to wind up being in a 1A, 1B. It's an opportunity where if he gets the time and he shows what he's made of, he's going to wind up taking the lion's share of the starts there. And that's what we're starting to see. He's starting to produce a lot more on his end. And like you said, it's probably in relation to a lot of what he's done with, just the opportunities that he's had in Calgary, versus here. He can take the reins and run with them. So with Vladar, I think it's a great situation, and I think it's a win-win for the Flyers, because now you're getting starter quality. You get quality starts out of Dan Vladar. He's keeping this team in games, and despite this offense being towards the bottom as far as goals per game go, it's definitely a situation where Vladar can flourish a little bit more. And worst case scenario, either hang out with the Flyers for a few years after, if he decides to sign an extension after next year, or he can go somewhere else and prove that, hey, I'm a starter. So, he can go to a middle of the road team looking for a goalie and get paid.
Right. So this could be a launching off point for him.
Bingo. Took the words right out of my mouth.
I always do.
Yep.
But no, it makes a good point, because by that time, right, a Kolosloff will be ready to take the reins. Carson Bjarnson will be ready to take those reins. A Zabragan will be ready to take those reins. And Eriksson, despite playing, he was solid last night. For not playing in a week's time, he made some tough saves last night, and you got to be strong mentally for that. So kudos to him. But overall, the play has been down, and like I said, Vladar has lifted this team up between the pipes.
I got a couple of comments coming in here from Eric. I'm going to go back to the first one. I hope Michkov starts picking up the points. He will. It's early. He's way too talented. I think he's with his English is getting better, but I still think there's some things to get lost in translation as far as the game goes. But I'm not worried about Michkov. Even if his points don't pick up this year, sophomore slump, come back next year. I mean, look at Bedard. Bedard had an off year last year, and look at how he is this year. So, Robbie, thoughts?
Yeah, we touched upon it before. The less time this team is on the penalty kill, the more time on ice Michkov will get. The more time they draw penalties, the more time Michkov will get on that, and then you'll see those points rise correspondingly. But you got to be in better hockey positions, and you learn that from playing. I mean, but he just reached his 100th game and scored his 31st goal. So, overall, maybe more of those were last year, but you're learning a new system, right? And maybe he's one of those guys that's still learning, right? To Ashlyn Sullivan's point, because he's been caught out, and it's more on a defensive, been caught diving and pinching and what have you. But once he learns better positioning, and I'm seeing the improvement. We saw that during that game where he had goals in consecutive games. Saw him light the lamp against the Devils too when Couturier found him, right? That's one more, another thing too is, let's not just to give him an excuse, but let's not take the microscope off of his line mates. Keep your head up and find him.
Yeah. Because
you gotta set the guy up for talent, for production. I mean,
yeah, no, for sure. And we might as well just jump into it now, since we are going to do a little bit more of a shortened show tonight. We're at about the 30-minute mark now. Jumping into last night, and I kind of want to address it while it's early with Eric's second comment here, saying Nick Delorier is a waste of a roster spot. I'm going to fully disagree with that. I like Nick Delorier. I always have. He has a role. He knows his role. He understands it. He's not a point guy. He's a guy that's going to go out and protect guys like Michkov. He's going to go out and protect the guys like Forrester, like Zegras, although Zegras has shown a little bit of bite in his game this year. Nicholas Delorier does have some value on the penalty kill as well. He's a very solid defensive player, and he does have a role with any team in the NHL. I mean, if you look at the way that they, if you look at the way that he had the fight against Montreal, pulled the team right back into it. I believe I forget if he played against the Devils or not. But even last night, and Rob, I know you said you kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit. You know, the fight with Douglas last night, this guy has a role. His role is to spark the team when they're not showing up. And to say that he's a waste of a raw spot, no, because you know what? He has value. No, he's not completely useless like a Ryan Reeves or anybody that kind of assimilates the style of game that he has. Like Ryan Reeves is completely useless on any team. He doesn't score. At least Nicholas Delorier can put the puck in the net too occasionally.
Right.
But for the most part, you're using him as protection, you're using him as energy, and you're using him to be a spark. What are your thoughts on that?
Would I rather see Nikita Grabenkin in that spot? No, I would not, because this team is too small. You need to have size. You need to have defenders, right? When Mitchkov got nailed the other night, you know, he had guys getting his back, right? It wasn't Delorier, but he would be if he was on the ice with them, right? But he can get the guy back on the next shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need that guy that's going to be the answer, that's going to be the enforcer in order to police, you know, the game. And I know the game has changed, but you still need that element, right? And having Grabenkin in that spot is stunting his development, because meanwhile he can get top 6, top 9 minutes with the Phantoms.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Like a lot of people are saying, put Grabenkin in. I'm a Grabenkin fan. I've said it multiple times. I like the kid. I like his energy. I like what he brings. I like the positivity. My computer is freaking out again. Hopefully it doesn't get as bad as it was, but we'll see. Hopefully we only got like 10, 15 minutes left, so we'll see how this goes.
You're good on my end, buddy.
Yeah, it's kind of flipping in certain areas, but anyway, so if I start flashing, you'll know why. So with that being said, like I think Grabenkin, I would love to see him get more minutes on the main roster, but that's not going to happen right now. That's going to happen down the road after the trade deadline. Open up a couple spots there, and I see Eric once again saying trade Tippett, Zamula, and a first for a center and a fourth. I don't know with the way that with Tippett's playing right now. I don't know who you're going to get at center. But, I mean, center position's been okay. They definitely need to upgrade, but it's been good enough. But they need a spark in the offense just completely. So, at this point, I'm willing to trade for anybody that's going to help them put the puck in the net. But jumping into the game against Tampa, as I said earlier on in the show, was a 3-0 loss. You're going up against one of the best goalies in the world. Again, off to another slow start. Ersson, to your point, Robbie, looked pretty solid in net. I had no issues with anything that he did. I thought it was probably one of his better games, and I kind of got the sense that he was frustrated after the game. Obviously not through any fault of his own, but you know, a lack of offense that obviously any goalie is going to be frustrated. You get shut out 3-0, but the offense just needs to really find their game early, and you know, just what are some of your thoughts from this game?
Well, I listened to Rick Tockett's presser after the game, and it coincides to what you're saying, so I'll start there. He goes, there were plays to be made, we just didn't make them. Mm-hmm. Their best players won them the game. Cirelli was awesome. Yeah, he was. He had a goal and an assist. Hagel, 2 goals and an assist. Yep. Kucherov, 3 assists. And when we had chances, we didn't hit the net. There were plays to be made. We just didn't, bottom line. And that really summed up the game, like Tocchet did really in a nutshell. It's a really inauspicious start to the 4-game Thanksgiving week road trip. I haven't had a chance yet. I'll say happy Thanksgiving, fam, before I forget before the show ends. But hey, newsflash, man. Tampa Bay Lightning are a fast team, like I talked about before. So as fast as the Flyers have been, Tampa Bay is the measuring stick, and Philly came up short, and that's okay. Because they forechecked well. They had some chances on Vazzy, albeit limited due to Tampa Bay's strong neutral zone play. They only had 6 high danger chances, I believe, but it's Vazzy, and he was on his game with the shutout. Again, though, like Tox also said, it's great for our players to watch these guys under pressure in gameplay and see how they play. Right? It's part of the learning curve. So I think this is, in the end, this 3-0 loss, there is some value to take from it, and there's some learning lessons to take from it. They just didn't get enough quality shots, and they didn't hit the net enough. And when you do that, you're almost giving Vazzy the shutout, let alone the awesome 10 bell saves that I saw him make.
Yeah, and to kind of build off a little bit more than what I said earlier on in the show, if you're just joining us, make sure you always hit that like, subscribe, turn those notifications on, never miss anything A2D has to offer, whether you catch us live or wherever you get your podcasts from, whether it be Apple, Spreaker, any of them, just hit that like, hit that sub, turn on the notifications. Here's the thing for me. Vasilevsky, you have to get on early. If you let him get into a groove, he's going to just get better as the game continues to go on. And we saw that. To your point, Flyers had a number of pretty dangerous opportunities. They had no finish. Michkov, for example, to your point earlier and to Eric's comment, was he had a breakaway at one point. He couldn't beat Vasilevsky. He's one of the best goaltenders in the world. And he keeps Tampa Bay in games every night that he plays for the reason that he's the best. He really is the best goalie. Right. There's nobody better than him in the league right now. Whether it's Carey, you want to argue Carey Price, because technically he's still in the league. I believe he's in Seattle's organization now, technically. But you got to find ways to get to these goalies early. Rattle them. Vasilevsky is like the Tom Brady of NHL goalies. Tom Brady, what's the best way to rattle him? Hit him a few times. What's the best way to rattle Vasilevsky or any goalie in the NHL? You score on him a couple times. Give yourself a lead. Allow yourself to play with that lead, play a little bit more relaxed. The Flyers aren't giving themselves that opportunity, and that was a good showing last night of that. Ersson looked good. He looked good enough. He's getting side to side. I think the Hagel one was just really bad defense, in my opinion. And then the other one was just a really good tip by Cirelli. So there's really not a whole lot that you can really blame on Ersson in that game for. So the team in front of him has to be better. And the offense just has to, again, this is the point that I'm going to burn in everybody's brain tonight. The offense has to score. They got to find ways to score early. Allow them to play themselves to play with the lead. Otherwise, it's going to be the same result against Tampa Bay the rest of the year.
Right. You're going to be chasing, and it's hard to chase down a fast team like the Tampa Bay Lightning. And boy, do you know Matvei Michkov wanted to score in Vasilevsky there. Oh, it. Oh, you know it. Mad. He was disappointed. He's so mad.
He had
so mad.
Yep. He had what, 3 opportunities in that game? 3 golden opportunities, including the breakaway.
Yeah, the one flub, the fan on the shots. Yeah. Yep. And I mean, hey, you're going to grip your stick a little tight there. I mean, it's a guy you're idolizing, right? But yeah, Hagel's point. I believe Hagel's goal that you mentioned was on an odd man rush. Too many odd man rushes, and now you could point your finger at the defense, but I'm pointing my finger at the forwards not getting caught out and allowing that odd man rush. That just can't happen, and that's what I think you need to work on in practice.
No, absolutely, and that was one of the things that Sean Couturier talked about in his presser was, I believe that was was one of his turnovers too that turned into that 2-on-1, which led to Hagel's first goal. Right. So that's another thing too, is the defense or the offense just has to be have a little bit better awareness in who's around, because that's going to happen. I feel like that's happening more often than not this year, just from a lack of awareness, guys not being in the proper position. I think, once they settle in, because we've seen a couple of really good games from them this year. I personally have yet to see a complete game from this team, but I'd say the closest is the Devils game where they won 6-2, 6-3. For me, it's they just have to have better awareness and kind of take the game as it's coming to them. I think they rush too much, and I think we saw it a lot last night as well.
Yeah, 6-3. Yeah, yeah, you do, and I mean that's what you're going to see when you're playing the cream of the crop, right? When you talk about Eastern Conference, and you're going to have a situation where you get out, you get like what was it? Zamula, total boneheaded, needless cross-checking penalty. Right, that just kills your opportunity to come back in that game. And I won't just pick on Zamula, a guy I've been high on, Emil Andre. He got out muscled on the first Tampa goal. Jamie Drysdale was a -3 on that. He was on the ice for all three, including the empty netter. So, but I'm not going to pick on Jamie though. Overall, I've been encouraged by his play. Cam York was excellent in the Jersey Devil game. So I mean, you're on the road, you're out of Tampa. I mean, definitely. I mean, I don't want to make excuses, but I'm going to make excuses a little bit. I just, in the end, though, you got to be played more disciplined. You cost yourself an opportunity to have a power play as well. And yeah, like you said, Brian, you got to find ways to finish plays, get up the energy, and I mean, ultimately, this team, you saw Delorier start that fight. It was a little too late. But that, I mean, we saw earlier in the season Delorier having a fight that really sparked a comeback for the Flyers. So that was a good idea, good thinking, but like a little bit, too little, too late.
Yeah. Eric chimes in and says he likes him, but he wants to see Gurbankin in a little bit more. So he kind of shares our sentiment on that. Yeah. And I saw other guys who will fight Hathaway Sealer. I don't know if I call Sealer a fighter. Hathaway, yeah, I would agree to that. But I think with Gurbankin, I think it's a similar situation of Michkov, a little bit of a lot getting lost in translation, so not really settling into the NHL game as well. Right. So, Gurbankin's young, so I'm not really too worried about him. He's going to get his opportunity. He made the roster for a reason, so we just got to be a little bit patient with him until we can free up some roster spots here. A bit of a logjam at wing, unfortunately, right now.
Yeah, a bit. But I mean, there's an easy way, though. I mean, for games where if you want to, you're playing maybe a smaller team, right? A Montreal Canadiens, for example, right? That's an opportunity where you slide Brink back with Katie and Forrester. And I'd put Gurbankin. Why don't you give him top line minutes at the NHL level here and there to further that development in between stints with the Phantoms? And we saw a lot of chemistry with him and Matvei Michkov in camp and in the preseason. Yeah. Build upon that with the captain. Well, I mean, what better line, right? And you can maybe even have the Casey Forrester Brink line play that top line minutes, have them slide back. I've liked what I've seen from Dvorak, Zegras, and Tippett. Overall, I mean, I think you made this point earlier in the show, Brian. We're seeing a lot of good balance.
Yeah, and that's one of the. I mean, I don't want to say it's a long list, but it's definitely not a short list. Like a decent length list of things that I've seen that's very positive about this team. I mean, I'm with you, Eric. I'm not one for the brawls so much anymore. I know there's definitely a time and a place for them. They are a part of the game for a number of different reasons, but I'm with you on that. I want to see what we got as well, but again, just comes as a log jam at the position, and that's kind of the hard part. But as far as the positivities that we're seeing, resiliency obviously is for me the big one. Being able to fight back, claw back into games, figure out ways to get to overtime, sometimes getting those wins in overtime, getting the wins in the shootout, which is something that as a fan base, we're not used to, which is great, especially having Zegras on there, who's statistically the best penalty shot taker in
Oh,
NHL history.
oh my God, so gorgeous. It's so much fun to watch them.
Just so much.
Surgical.
Yes, surgical is probably the best way. And he's teaching Bobby Brink too, and Bobby Brink is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot to be happy with this team about. They're taking steps forward in a lot of different areas. Again, we're about 20%, about 25% of the way through the season already. Maybe a little bit more than that. But there's
definitely
this
at the
team
quarter
is,
pole.
yeah. Yeah, it's they're in good shape right now. They're definitely taking steps forward from last year, which is kind of what I expected. I didn't expect it to be quite this much, but there's also still a lot that they need to improve on. Again, not chasing in games, playing with leads, figuring out ways to more consistently get the puck in the net. What I find actually most impressive, Robbie, is this was their first shutout of the year.
Yeah.
This is the first time they've been shut out all season long, which I thought was kind of an impressive stat.
It is an impressive stat, especially since you're talking about a team that focuses a lot of their energies on playing defensively well 5-on-5, right? That you would think, okay, that's going to result in lower scoring games, which more low scoring games you have, the more shutouts. But it's been Forrester is just cementing himself as a sniper for this team that we knew he could be and is becoming right before our eyes. I'm very encouraged with his progress. Bobby Brink, you just mentioned him. Gorgeous goal against the Devils and continues to have an excellent shot himself. And like I said, I mean, like, yeah, eventually you want the playmakers in between, but you're getting that play, the playmaker, they're getting set up. So if they continue that, this team is going to be just fine. They're 1 point out of a playoff spot right now. It's a bit of a long jam, but sitting with 11-7-3 record after 21 games played. If you told me that, I would take that 8 days a week.
Yeah, especially in the position that they're in.
Right.
Eric says he thought the Flyers played well against the Lightning, just didn't score.
Right.
I think there were definitely aspects of the game where they played well. I thought Erson played well. I thought defense, for the most part, played well. Again, it's just the offense didn't.
Right.
Yeah,
missing a lot of shots, missing the net. You're giving a all-world goaltender. You're doing him a favor. It's kind of like when you're a hitter in baseball and you're swinging that ball 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want to just get those shots on net, right? You like that? Yeah, I like that.
It infuriates me so much.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap it up here in a couple minutes, and before we do that, wasn't a part of the agenda, but I'm going to throw it in here anyway.
Cool.
Just a little baseball talk here real quick. Just a little hot stove stuff, because something was brought to my attention earlier today that I had no idea even happened. And I'm curious if you knew this happened, being a Mets fan, because I want to get your take on this, because this blew my mind. Why are the Mets trading Brendan Nimmo?
I've had a feeling you'd ask me about that. When he signed his extension, he was committed to a lot of money for, I believe, what was Brandon Nimmo's extension? Let me see here. But basically, this is going to free up more money in this deal, because Simeon is less years, less dollars, right? To where you're going to be able to potentially re-sign a Pete Alonso. Maybe you go out and you want to improve, as good of a year Nimmo had offensively, and he did equal his career year at All-Star year of a few years ago when he got the extension. Defensively, he's taken a step down. He was a decent center fielder that lost his edge, moved to left field, and I believe he was -9 runs defensively last year. And that was a big factor, that now that you free up an outfield spot, because obviously he's such a long tenured Met, he automatically gets that spot. But this way, you can go out and you could sign a Cody Bellinger. You can maybe make a push for a Kyle Tucker. You could maybe package a couple guys for a Fernando Tatis, and really, they missed the playoffs for as much money, and you get Juan Soto and you miss the playoffs. That's a freaking embarrassment. So you can't run out the same core. You just can't do it. So a lot of the fan base, it was upsetting, but it wasn't shocking. But ultimately, you bring in Semien, his bat's falling off. He's definitely a depreciating asset, but he's still an all-world defender at second base. So you get value there, but he can also potentially be flipped in a deal. Like I said, Tatis. Maybe they need a frontline starter. Packaging a deal with some prospects to get Tyreek Skubal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So these are all the talks that are going on right now. As I pull up he signed an 8-year, $162 million deal in 2022. So now you got Semien, who has I gotta go to a link. Damn it! I should. Like you said, you caught me off the cuff here. He's an unrestricted free agent, so he's got 3 more years on his 2026, 27, 28 at 26, 26 and 20 million. So you save money there. And it was a 7-year deal signed earlier. So basically you gained it would have been till 2030, and he is a free agent in 2028. So you gain 2 years there. You know what I mean? Money falling off the books and what have you. So, as saddening as it is, and Brandon Nimmo is my favorite Met by far. He just plays the game the right way. And I'm sure as a Philadelphia Phillies fan, and most of our fan base here is Philadelphia, I know it's weird seeing the Flyers, I just, it was dropped on my head, as like Tommy and Wilson always said a couple times growing up. But I love it, so I do. Different, fell in love with different teams. But anyway, as a Philadelphia Phillies fan, right, you could hate on a Pete Alonso, you could hate on a Juan Soto. It's kind of hard to hate on a Brandon Nimmo, kind of similar to David Wright, right? Yeah. Guys that play the right way. As much as a lot of my fan base hated on Chase Utley, I've never hated on Chase Utley. Yeah. He played the game the right way. He played hard. A little dirty, but I mean, that's how you play. That's how I played. I'm dirty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, he's not dirty. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, you respect guys that play the game well, and that's why it's sad to see. But I wish Nims all the luck with Texas Rangers. I think if he was going anywhere, and he had to okay the deal because he had a no trade clause, right? He had to okay the deal, and I think this is one of the teams that he told the Mets he'd be willing to go to because of the market, but also get to be teammates with Jake again. That's pretty cool.
Oh, Jake true. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Plus, I also think on top of it too that the Rangers are a team that's still in that contention too. Like I still think they're a playoff team. I think they needed an upgraded center field, or in the outfield. I think Nimmo can play all 3 positions out there.
At center field, he's more of a corner outfielder at this point of his career, just in terms of his range. He's had plantar fasciitis issues, but he's definitely a better defender, even though, like I said, he had -9. I believe it was a -9, but a run differential. But they non-tenured Adolis Garcia. So they needed to fill that. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I believe Jeff McNeil's a free agent after this year too for the Mets. So that was another need for them. So you're filling. This is a good baseball trade. You're filling 2 needs for 2 teams that have holes in those positions. Now my hope is that the Phillies go out and do the same thing and fill a need. Hopefully they go out and they sign obviously for me, main thing is get Schwarber back. But I mean, as far as like the Mets getting rid of Nimmo, as a Phillies fan, well, first of all, as a baseball fan, I love Brandon Nimmo. It's really hard to hate a guy like him because whether it's winning or losing, whether he's struggling or red hot at the plate, the guy always has a smile on his face. He loves going to the ballpark. He loves what he does. And like you said, he does it right. It's hard to not like Brandon Nimmo. Now, as a Phillies fan, I hate Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah.
Now,
really?
I hate Brandon Nimmo for the reason that he kills the Phillies. To get him out of the division is great. Just because, like I said, for some reason, his bat shows up consistently against the Phillies. It's like he's got a vendetta against them or something, which I wouldn't blame him. But just getting Brandon Nimmo out of division as a Phillies fan is great. I think the Rangers are improved. I think the Mets definitely did a good service of getting Nimmo to a team that is still a playoff contender, and also with bringing in a player, an upgrade to fill a hole at second base. I'm I'm okay with Jeff McNeil. I don't hate him. I don't love him, but I do like a Marcus Semien a little bit better. He's also, I think, a little bit more versatile. In case something happens to Lindor, you can always slide Semien over to shortstop as well. So it's a good pickup for both teams for sure. Real quick before we get out of here, Swoopy chiming in saying, "What's up, guys?" Also goes on to say Nimmo isn't even fast. It seems like he should be. Very surprising. That probably has something to do with the plantar fasciitis that he has. You know that better than me.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. He never really attempts a lot because he has that hustle speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he's a very, in terms of stolen base success rate, awesome. You know what I mean? When he goes, and we saw that with Anton Richardson. That's going to be a huge loss for the Mets, their first base coach, because he picks up something that was a strategy that no one could match. It was like the tush push of Major League Baseball, where Mets were they didn't get caught by a catcher for over 3 months during this season. For I think the last time they were caught before the end of the season was back in June. And now he goes to the Atlanta Braves, so that's bad news for both of us because he knows the trick to the trade.
Yeah, for sure. Swoopy, I saw the Brendan Nimmo trade from, I guess it was a couple days ago. I saw it this morning, and I figured I'll throw it in at the tail end of the show here, just because I just wanted to get Robbie's take on it.
We're baseball and hockey guys. That's our two loves.
Yeah, for sure. And then Chrome chiming in saying he #disagrees to the poll boys. I love what I've seen from this team. They play hard. It's hard to disagree with that.
Well, when you talk about resiliency, right, I immediately think the energy involved that it takes to be resilient, and that gauge is going to go down the more that you don't get off the fast starts, right? But in terms of character resiliency, absolutely agree with you, Cromer. And that's what I said also when I'm answering the poll, albeit I agree to the poll, I still like the makeup of this team, and you can bank that they're always going to fight. They're always going to have that fighting aspect of the resiliency, no matter what the score is of the game. They'd be down 6-2, and they're going to still be fighting for that game. So they play hard till the final buzzer. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And last one before we get out of here, it's going to be Swoopy saying Soto surprised this year in steals. Shocking.
Yeah, but I guarantee you that's going to go down this year. He was a big benefactor of Anton Richardson. Watch, I mean, for fantasy, for people that are banking on Soto being like finally the 5-category player that we thought he could be, I bet you he'll have 15 stolen bases this year, maybe 20. But because that was his high. I think he had a career high of 12 in a season before this season. So, I mean, he might try to still steal.
I mean, if he could do it, why not? I mean, if you don't, I mean, his power numbers, he needs to get back on track. But, I mean, if you could still help your team out on the base pass, that's still never a bad thing to be able to do.
Well, he had an over 9 OPS. It was if you exclude the first month of the season. So, I mean, like you can't, I mean, you could skew stats all you want, but once he got into the swing of things on the, in Queens, it's a little adjustment taking the 7 train instead of the 5, so.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Niche night. Love it. Crom does lazy booking every Tuesday just before we do, so definitely go check him out. Always a great conversation with him and Eric Archer. They do a phenomenal job over there. They just dropped a massive announcement tonight, so go back, check them out, and go see what they were talking about. So, all right, buddy, let's say we wrap this thing up and get the hell out of here and go enjoy our Thanksgiving. All right, brother. As always, we are brought to you guys by Specialized Physical Therapy. There's a link. Head on over. They have offices in Burlington and Cherry Hill. They can fix just about anything. They'll do an assessment, set up a program. You'll go in, you'll rehab for a little bit, and by the time they let you go, you're gonna feel great. I had shoulder issues. I went to see them. This is probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. I had a little bit of a shoulder issue. Ever since I went to them, I learned a couple tricks to keep my shoulder strengthened up, and I haven't had shoulder issues since. So head on over. He's our doc, Dr. Paul Vidal. Make him yours. SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. Dales, that's Pove. For Matt Sensoud, who couldn't be here tonight, we want to wish every single one of you out there have a safe and happy Thanksgiving on Thursday. I know tomorrow night's one of the biggest party nights of the year, especially for guys our age. If you do go out tomorrow night, please be safe, be smart, be responsible. Don't drink and drive. Uber home, Lyft home. There's way too many car services nowadays that you have no excuse to not how to get home. But please be safe. Everybody have a great and happy Thanksgiving, and we will talk to you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace out, everybody.